We are now going to take our curves here and extrude these and make a three-dimensional shape. Let's double click on our viewport tab so we can get the three orthographic views plus the perspective. And if I grab all of those, then I just want to run the command extrude curve. And as I start typing, you'll see that it's going to predict what I want to do. And that's our extrude command there, and there's a few different ones there, but the first one I want is the extrude curve. And you can see that we have a shape which is coming up, and we've got some different options up here. So one of the options that I want is to have this solid. If I don't have this solid, it's just going to be thin walls which run around these curves. The other one that I want is both sides. At the moment, I'm just extruding straight up. And I can click on that, and now you can see that I'm extruding in both directions. So let's make this, say, about 1 millimeter thick. So if I press, 2 millimeters thick. If I press 1, it's going to extrude 1 millimeter up and 1 millimeter down. And let's come and we'll change our viewport, our display views. I want this one to be shaded, this one to be ghosted, ghosted, and ghosted. So let's double click into our perspective, and you can see that we've got this beautiful object here. If I select this, you can see that we've got a closed extrusion. Now Rhino is going to use extrusions where possible in order to try and save on space, and it's just going to make things run a little bit faster when Rhino uses extrusions. But normally we'd have each of these surfaces classified separately, and we would have something like a closed poly surface. So that's our pendant. Let's delete that, and I'll show you what happens when we don't have these joining up. Let's explode. We've got this little explosion icon here. So I'm going to explode this and enter. And now I can select each of these segments. I'm going to join these 5 together, so join. And then this one here, I'm just going to bring off so it's not quite joined. Now if I press F10, you can see that I've turned my control points on. I'm going to come to the top viewport. And now I can drag each of these, select these, and drag those around and modify the curve once I've got those control points on. So this is where I talked about the importance of having all of these checked, and you can see that my project is not checked. I want to make sure that is enabled. So as I come close, it's not going to snap. I'm using this little boxy. It's not going to snap to the point there. If I was to use the move command, which is this button here, then I can snap to that point there. But using the gumball, it's not going to snap unless I come down to our gumball options, right click, and choose snappy dragging. And once I've done that, that is going to start snapping to different points of geometry in my scene. Let's go back to our gumball, and we'll turn smooth dragging back on rather than snappy dragging, because I want to get close but not actually quite touch. So that's not touching. Now I need to join this back together. So select both of those and join. And you can see that we have an open curve if we look in our object properties. So now if I select all of those, and I will go to perspective and extrude curve, and you can see it's remembered our last distance. Now if I press enter, what's happened is it's recognized that these curves in the center here are closed, and so that's giving us solid surfaces. It's recognizing that this curve here is not closed, and so when we've extruded this, it wasn't able to cap this and make this solid. So that's the importance of making sure that the curves that you extrude are closed. So let's Control Z, 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 right up to the point where I exploded. And if I select that, you can see we've got our closed curve there. All right, so select all of those and extrude curve, distance equals 1. And there we have it. We're quite happy now. We've got our closed extrusion. Okay, so let's now make a ring for the top. We'll come to our top viewport. Now I want to grab a circle. So again, it's just the circle command here. If you can't find this button, you can just type circle. And there we have it. So I'm going to snap here, and it's going to ask us what size we want this to be. And I'm thinking maybe 5mm, something like that. So make sure that we've got diameter here selected and not radius. Type in 5. And from here I can sort of move that up into position. Now I want to make this out of round wire, maybe 1mm round wire. So now I'm just going to run the command pipe and press enter. You can see we've got a radius being 1mm. I'm going to change that to diameter and call that 1mm. Enter, and then enter again. So the pipe is just basically creating this cylinder which runs around whatever curve you've got selected. This being a closed curve, it's closed it up. If you have an open curve, it'll still work to make a pipe. There are some options whether you want the end closed or have that rounded off or have that end open if your curve is open. So let's have a look. I'm going to hold down Shift and drag that box in just to scale it down a little bit, and that is looking pretty good. Let's switch to perspective mode so you can see what we've got going on here, and it's looking quite nice. So the next step is going to be creating a bail which runs through this loop here, and then our chain will run through our bail.